The last thing I expected when I watched Onward was to tear up, but that says a lot about the kind of impact this movie has on audiences. However, does it stack up against the all-time Pixar greats? We'll let you know in our take coming up.
Onward is directed by Dan Scanlon, who also directed Monsters University, and this movie features the voice talents of Tom Holland, Chris Pratt, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and Octavia Spencer. So we have Tom Holland playing Ian and Chris Pratt playing Barley. They are two brothers, and they get this opportunity to relive one day with their dead father, and so they embark on this quest of epic proportions,
That's right?
In the search for the Phoenix Stone.
The Phoenix Stone.
And they encounter many different obstacles. This movie is definitely a fantasy film that reminded me of, for example, Lord of the Rings or Indiana Jones.
Basically, any fantasy story you can think of.
Exactly, right. Which is kind of refreshing for a Pixar film. So what we have here is a world that was once filled with magic, and as time passes and technology evolves, that magic begins to fade away. But there is a magical weapon of sorts in this movie that allows these brothers to kind of retake some of that magic in order to embrace their past and potentially, revisit their father, right? Or revisit with their father,
right? And it's a heartwarming story. It's a heartfelt story. A lot of pros and cons for me in this movie. This is kind of like your standard hero's journey. So if you're
very strong in its archetypes,
right? If you're familiar with archetypes, you can see it, sprinkled all
the hero's quest, the threshold, all
the magical
stuff.
weapon, that type of thing.
The obstacles and trials along the way, they're all there.
And so you kind of see some things developing ahead of time. The foreshadowing was a little bit obvious, but what they did was they took your fantasy elements and they mixed it with modern society, and so that was neat. Like you said, refreshing. So I enjoyed the movie.
This movie speaks volumes about relationships between fathers and sons, but also about brothers and brotherhood.
Obviously, the storyline here is about trying to spend time with the dad, but then along the way, you see that the protagonist, Ian, starts to deal with some of the fears that he's been having, and so you see those prop up in their journey. He deals with those, and then also developing this relationship with his brother.
Yeah, and since we're talking about the the storyline, where the movie fell a little short for me was in its humor. Actually, I just thought that the humor was aimed a little too much at smaller kids, and some of the jokes fell a little short for me, where I wish that the movie would have made me laugh a little bit more.
Right.
But
it's a high bar that Pixar sets, and so if you're not laughing throughout like Toy Story, you're like, oh, it's not that good. But I agree with you. Like, there could have been more funny moments, but maybe that's not what they were going for, because like you said, it was heartfelt, and I don't want to give anything away, but it is a tear-jerker, a heart-wrencher throughout the entire movie.
I will say that the movie ends up in a place that I didn't expect, so I appreciated that the ending kind of, it really gave me the chills, because it really went in a direction I didn't expect. And I've got to hand it to Chris Pratt and Tom Holland, because they had great chemistry in those roles, and
absolutely
excellent voice acting. But I really enjoyed Octavia Spencer as the Manticore.
Oh yeah,
I really did. I thought that was one of the funnier elements in the movie. Surprising, refreshing, the character overall. So I really enjoyed that character.
Yeah, Chris Pratt for me was the best. I mean, I really enjoyed his voice acting. He's so natural no matter what role he's in. Although Tom Holland was excellent, Chris Pratt for me was the most entertaining. Yeah,
and I am just amazed at the visuals in this movie. I mean, it seems like
stunning.
Pixar just keeps setting the bar higher and higher and higher. And I mean, it's just amazing at how real the CGI looks.
So wrapping up this review, I would say that it is not one of the greatest Pixar films ever made, but obviously a really good Pixar film, one that I would recommend you guys going to the theater to watch. And again, the one thing that stands out for me is how it brought out those emotions for me throughout the movie. So even though some of it I could kind of see coming as far as the plot, this movie had an effect on me, and for that reason, I will give it 4 solid reels.
I enjoyed the movie overall. It probably lies somewhere between maybe Monsters University and Monsters Inc. for me, as far as like where I would place it. I think that Monsters Inc. is one of the better Pixar films, so it's not quite as good as maybe, you know, the heights of Ratatouille, Finding Nemo, Toy Story maybe, but it's definitely better than the Cars movies for me, so it's definitely worth a watch in my opinion. If you have sons, or you know, take your sons or take your father to go watch this movie, take your brother to go watch this movie. I think that it will resonate deeply with those relationships, and again, I just wish that the humor would have been a little bit better, and that's really the only reason I will also give it 4 reels.
Okay, definitely watch this movie at the theater, and definitely comment down below. Let us know what you think about our review, the movie, and where it ranks among Pixar's pantheon of movies. And of course, if you have an Alamo Drafthouse in your city, make sure to check it out there, because it is a fantastic place not just to watch movies, but in and outside, it's an overall entertaining experience.
Awesome. And don't forget to hit us up on social media. We're on Facebook at Real Screeners and Instagram real.screeners. And don't forget to hit that subscribe and bell button, and join us next time for some more real takes on movies. Okay. Onward is directed. Onward! This movie features the...
And definitely comment down below. And of course, if you have an Alamo Drafthouse in your theater, definitely go to the movie and check it out.
If you have an Alamo Drafthouse in your theater.
And of course, if you have an Alamo Drafthouse in your theater, God, I did it again.